Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. What we're going to do today is our standard platinum format, and we're going to ask questions and get the guys to contribute some ideas and problems and see what we can come up with and see what we can solve. Okay, so today I'll start with, I'll just go around and get the questions. Paul, what do you want to talk about specifically today?
I'd quite like to talk about kind of tiered pricing or three-pronged kind of pricing, which I know we've discussed before. Joachim was talking about. I don't know if he's actually implemented it. But the idea of adding different levels, you know, platinum, gold, kind of membership. Yes, that'd be quite good.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think we need to kind of talk about what other things that we can do. I think there's a lot of room there for expanding out on. You know, we've got our our bread and butter, our basic lessons. But yeah, then there's all the add-ons, and that's really where I see the next stage, and what I'm looking already towards is building your businesses on many levels, not just the teaching. So we have lots of things that you build a whole network of possible income streams. So we'll talk more about that, which is great. Okay, so Ben, what would you like to talk about today?
Quite a basic one, David, but I think as usual, the way I deal with problems as they come up, so I'm sure we've covered this one before, it's just down to scheduling. I'm finding now, which is nice, where I'm getting up to 50 students almost, just short, and I'm having to put intro people on waiting lists, because I'm saying, well, listen, I will have this slot free in 3 weeks' time, or I'll have this slot free in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and I'm loath to do it, because as we discussed last time, I'm terrified of the fact that I've made a great connection, they're okay with it, but I'm almost thinking, if I call back in 2 or 3 weeks, the fair chance they may have gone elsewhere, or they may have lost interest, and I'm also struggling to get, and understandably getting people to pay up front, knowing they're not going to have a lesson for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I can get them to pay up front for the lesson next week if they're booked in, fine, but if I'm saying I should have a 4:30 on Thursday in 3 weeks' time when so-and-so moves into a group, the general response is, well, I'll give us a call when that comes free and we'll see what we can do.
Yep, I understand. It's going to be a real, a matter of sort of setting out your timetables, setting what's available and how you're going to work it. The early days of a business are very similar to, and I think Paul's going through this right now, it's very similar to having a child. You don't get a lot of sleep. And the first year is a lot of work, especially for the mothers. We get it easy in comparison to what those poor women go through. But generally, the first 2 years of your business, if you want to be successful, it really is a sacrifice. You've got to put almost everything else on hold and focus totally on getting your business to a point where you can then sit back a little bit. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Bob, have you got a question that you want to throw into the mix today, or a topic that you want to discuss?
No, not particularly. I'm just here to listen to what everyone else is saying, and so far everything that's been covered has been of interest. One thing I do have a question about, which doesn't have to be answered today, is handicapping. I haven't a clue what that is.
Okay.
So,
yeah, we can go with that.
If we have some time near the end, maybe we could talk about that for a sec.
Absolutely.
I keep hearing about it, and I keep crossing it. I have no idea what it is.
Okay, no problem. It's where we tie up students and make them play one hand behind their back. And no, I'm joking. We'll get to it in a minute. It's a big part of your teaching, and it's when it comes to group teaching, understanding the handicapping is the key to successful group teaching. So,
yeah,
all right, so
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover that one.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's dive in and we'll work through these 3 points, and then if you've got some more questions at the end, or if you guys want to jump in at any point, go for it. So the tiered pricing, so I think that we need, first of all, we do need upsells. We need places that people who want to spend more money, who have more, look, we owe it to them. We owe our students more offerings. We can't just limit them to one thing. And that is all about improving what we do and getting better and better at what we do, because if we don't do it, if we keep doing the same thing, eventually we'll disappear because someone else will come along who's doing it better, or they'll present something that's a better offering. Because price isn't everything for a lot of people. A lot of people are looking for quality. And if you think about, I always come back to the analogy of restaurants. You think about restaurants. If everyone was after price and value, they'd be going to the cheapest restaurants to find the best food at the cheapest prices. But not everybody does that. Some people want the mid-price. Some people want the upper price. There are different people looking for different things, and there are the same people looking for different things at different times. So if you're going on a date, or if you're taking your parents out for their 25th wedding anniversary or something like that, you want to take them somewhere special. You don't want to take them where the food is good but cheap. You want to take them somewhere that's also pricey and put something a nice atmosphere in the whole thing. So we kind of need to think in that respect. We need to think about, okay, we've got our core product, which is our lessons, which are half an hour a week. So the question is not about creating more products just to make more money, and I think that's a really bad way to approach this. What we need to do is approach it from the point of view of what do people want, and what are we not providing. So let me just go through you guys and find out if you can think of something that we are not providing that could be provided for certain kinds of students. And I'm talking about the pyramid here. At the bottom of the pyramid are where most of the students are. That's where really 90% of the market is, and these are like beginners, people who are not wanting to pay much more than, in the case of the UK, they don't want to pay more than £20 a lesson, etc. So this is where the majority of the market sits. But as you go up the pyramid, people are prepared to pay more for certain things. And what is it that they're willing to go up the pyramid for? So Paul, I'll start with you. What would you think a student would look for? Something further up the list.
The main things that have come out with conversations, one was individual lessons, just where students have kind of raised questions. I thought, well, that would be great to have an individual once a month to obviously work on certain things. Song workshops or something like that. That's something I'm starting to do now, is do a workshop every month doing songs. So I thought that would be good, different kind of workshops. So they're the main kind of points that have come up. Individual lessons, learning a song all the way through, which has brought up kind of the song workshop idea. Access to student website, because I'm just overhauling the website for 6-month, year-long kind of big project. So they're sort of 3 things, which at the minute I've been adding just as value, but it's getting to a point where I just want to keep adding and adding and adding, where it's just, like I say, there's room there to offer more, like you're saying, offer more value, and then you're obviously more inclined and more motivated when there's people paying more for that value. And like I say, leaving money on the table. And a big thing that came from Jay Abraham was that, the way to grow your business, and one of them was increasing customer spend, as well as increasing customer base and increasing customer frequency, which obviously we've got the frequencies covered from subscription, it's then the spend. And I say I'm on top now of my marketing. It's now just, building the business side. That's where the question came from.
Cool, and that's great. And Jay's a perfect example. If you go to a seminar like you went, I think you paid, how many hundreds of pounds did you pay for that?
It was £97 for 3 days.
£97.
Like the thing you get to there is, it was £97. Come along. This is a pushy sales webinar. But then after every speech, it was like, oh yeah, we offer this in our subscription plan, and we offer this on our. And Jay's like $5,000 an hour for his one-on-one consultation. 10. What was it? It's $50,000 a day, I think, for Jay. That's why I see it leveling. It's getting smaller. So the groups is the base, then like small groups, individual kind of, like you're saying, the kind of pyramid kind of scheme, which I don't want to say pyramid scheme, but you know what I mean, the kind of hierarchy.
It's a pyramid scheme, I guess, of the time. But things like that have a bad connotation, but the reality is that it's just a word. It is a pyramid and it is a scheme. So, but yeah, Jay is a perfect example, and from what I have experienced with Jay, he's worth it. He's worth the $50,000 a day, because he's going to show you how to make that money back. If you don't make that money back from doing, following Jay and working with him, it's probably because you're not listening. Because he's just got full of ideas, and I'm sure for your $50,000 you would get lots of different things. He would give you all his resources. He would give you access to everything that he's got and more. So the idea is, so we're sort of relating, because Jay is someone who's been in the industry for a long time. He started out as a sales guy. He was selling photocopiers and cars and you name it. I think he worked for lots of different places and really worked out. When he was your age, he was earning a wage. He was a salesman and earning a wage. And so he's come a long way. I think Jay's in his 60s now, so he's been around. Now, the thing is, if we kind of look at that pyramid, the idea is that as you go up the pyramid, someone who's at the top, like we're talking about Jay here and charging $50,000, you may get just as good advice from someone who is charging nowhere near as much. That's possible, but Jay can command that money because his time is in such demand. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he is the best or as valuable as somebody else who's not as expensive. He just has the demand, and it does come down to demand and supply. It's the same with Tony Robbins. You want to spend a day with Tony Robbins, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But he's in demand, and you'll probably find people who are near as good as Robbins who charge $100 an hour. There are probably some very good people out there doing it. So just coming back to what we're doing in guitar, there is a level of trust, and as Robbins explains, is that when people pay $1 million to him for personal coaching, they're listening. Because they're paying a lot of money to be there, so he knows that they're listening. So when your students start to go up the pyramid, you might be getting a different kind of student, and maybe even a different attitude. If they're paying you $100 or $200 for your time, or £100, then for a session, they really value that time, and they want to really get as much out of it as they can. So the question is going to come back to you as to what you're going to give them in that time and how you're going to make it valuable for them. And that's really as you're going up this. And if you look at the marketing, these guys in the coaching, personal coaching, marketing, etc., then what they do is they start off with teaching large groups of people. So where you've gone to Jay, you paying £97, you're in a room. Even though it was a 3-day event, I know he was sharing the stage with a couple of other guys, so you weren't getting him for the whole time. When I went, I paid the equivalent, and this is 10 years ago, I paid the equivalent of £2,000, and 4 days of Jay all day. He had a couple of helpers and a couple of people who sort of spoke here and there, but it was basically him the whole time. He did have a couple of sales pitches during the whole event, but not much. It was mostly him teaching us and giving us lots of great ideas and content. And he did lots of good things. So where he moved the tables around. I don't know if he did that with you, but every time that we had a break, you had to go to another table. So you didn't get cozy with the people on your table. You met lots of people. So you ended up getting to know a lot of people in the room. There's about 400 people, so it was good. It was shuffling the deck every time. So. But if you wanted to go to the next level with Jay, that is, you wanted to sign up to one of his coaching programs that was ongoing, like a 12-month program, which I did, by the way, you couldn't go to him directly because he came to Australia as a special event. You had to go through his agent, and I signed up for that, and it was, I think, $15,000 for the year, and we would have, monthly meetings, boardroom meetings. We'd go there for literally half a day and go through all different scenarios, talk about different things, which was fantastic. Plus, we got all these materials, and we had to show our business structure and build our business. And this was a lot of the stuff that helped me with G4 at the time. And that was a great investment and paid off for me many times over. And a lot of people, when I say to them, 15 grand, do this, they're like, oh, that's a lot of money to pay for some coaching. Well, no, it's quality coaching. You can go cheap, or you can go to someone who really knows what they're doing, and these guys are very, very good at what they do. So that was in a room. There was about a dozen of us would be in that room at a time, and then of course there was the next level of private coaching with his particular agent, not with J. But then if you want, and that was more expensive, of course. And then if you wanted to go to J, you had to fly to America, and you had to pay the big dollars. So there were all these different levels that you could go to. And so that's really, I think, what we need to look at. We need to say group lessons are the core of what we do. You don't need to do any more than that. If you want to learn guitar, we will teach you guitar in groups, no problem. But if you want to, if you want that different experience, then, and if you've got teachers working for you, so this was the thing that I created, I did workshops, and so the students were learning with the teachers who I had employed, which they're happy, they're enjoying that, but they also knew that I was running the program. So doing a workshop with me was something that they were keen to do because they wanted to experience a lesson with me in a workshop environment. And so I made those into a bit of a kind of an exciting thing for them. I sort of, I did them once every 2 months, and it was a special situation where I came, all right, guys, you got me for 90 minutes, let's do it. And I really hyped them up, and I made it a show. It was a performance. It wasn't just about me showing them how to do something. It was actually showing the teachers as well how to deliver a workshop. Now, I coached a few of the teachers at the time to do workshops. So that's that's what I would look at. I would look at having you're doing your normal groups as you are now. The next stage would be, the next level would be perhaps to do where you add on workshops, even like special workshops for just selective students who want to pay that extra, and then you have your higher one where maybe you'll give them a private lesson as well. Does that sound like something you're thinking about, Paul?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty well the formula. I don't know. Has anyone else got anything they want to add to this? No? All good? Yeah.
David,
yep.
Are you talking about just holding a workshop and advertising it to your students and charging for that separately rather than building it into the subscription initially?
What I'm really talking about is giving students an extra purchase so that you can charge a different rate. So instead of charging the £59 a month, you could charge, say, £90 a month or £89 a month, and then what they do is they get something extra, which could be a workshop. There's two ways to look at a workshop. A workshop could be something that you do as an add-on value for your current students. So you could do those, maybe even if you ran 4 workshops a year, which all your students got complimentary as part of the program. But then what you could do is you could run extra workshops once a month, which were only for your, say, your silver. You've got your bronze, your silver, your gold, however you want to label it. But let's say your standard student they get 4 workshops a year. Then you've got your silver or your gold, and they get a workshop once a month. And whether there's 2 students there or whether there's 10 students there, it depends on how many people join that program. But basically, that's for them, and you cater for what they want. And then you could have the next level, which is, you say, your platinum, which could be a private lesson as well, a private session every so often, however you want to do it. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I think it's good to do some workshops as added value for your current students anyway.
Yeah, it would also be good to hold those same workshops that you offer to your silver and gold, hold them as standalones occasionally for your other students so they can sample them and then upsell them from there.
Exactly.
So,
that's it. Yeah, give them. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, what I've done with some of my students are generally intermediate and advanced, is I've had like improvisation nights, like once a month, like a jam night kind of thing, where we come together and we work on specific scales or modes or whatever, or improvisational ideas, or here's this chord or this thing that you can do this other stuff with, and blah blah, different ways of using pentatonics and blah 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 blah. And a lot of them signed up for that, and that was very popular, Yeah. Then of course song nights, and then special techniques, finger tapping or legato or whatever, or percussive acoustic stuff, very popular.
It's great. There's so many things you can add, and look, you can even think outside the box to where you have a program or a special program for those who want to go pro. Because there are always going to be some students who are not just wanting to do it for casual. They seriously want to become professional guitar players. So.
Yeah.
You know,
Because, I mean, there are plenty that don't necessarily want to become professionals, but they want to be able to play in a band.
yes.
Yeah, they want to be good enough that they can play in a band and jam with people and gig and that sort of thing. They don't want to earn their living from it, but they want to be able to play with other people, and that's a great thing to do. Yeah, as we all know.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you need to have those steps. You need to be able to move your students through the different levels, from beginner, strummer, picker, whatever, to band, to stage. And there's different skills that are involved. It's not just a matter of you've got to play in the band. You've got to learn to work with the band. Then you've also got to learn to play on a stage and perform. And,
performance techniques and that sort of thing. Yeah. Playing behind you.
Yeah.
So all that stuff.
It's,
all right.
We've all seen those musicians who stand on the stage and look at the floor and they don't move, they don't do anything. And part of it is presentation. So okay, cool. Yeah, and that's the idea is to think of what other programs that you can add on for your students and then build it into your business. So that what we're doing is we want to get them in through our £59 a month program, and from there build them into other programs and help them to have a path, because it also keeps the students you've got when you have a path, because they can see where they're going. One of the reasons students will drop out, and I experienced this years ago, especially amongst, when I was hiring teachers, and I could see certain teachers were losing a lot of students. I noticed how with, the more classical teachers, the piano, violin, so forth, they weren't losing students at near the rates the guitar teachers and the drum teachers were losing them. And one of the things that occurred to me, there's a few things that came, obviously, that I worked out, but one of the things was that they had programs and they had this kind of, doing exams and getting to this particular level and getting, so the students had a pathway. They knew where they were going. Whereas the students who were doing the guitar, it was often, they didn't really know where they were. It was just kind of, oh yeah, what song are we going to do this week? Kind of idea.
Yeah, well, I found that my students that do the exams, whether or not they sit them or they just work through the books, tend to stick around a lot longer, because they do feel like they're making progress, and the goal is the next book or the next piece or that next step. So that's always a good thing. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was.
Okay, no problem. Jump in, if you remember.
Age.
Okay, cool. So that's good. I think we've got some ideas there to work with. So I'll move along. So next thing was Ben with this scheduling, and so
I remember what it was.
Yep.
I was going to ask pricing. How will we be pricing these different silver and gold memberships, and what will we be offering so we have consistency across the franchises?
We did work out some pricing, and I think it's on the member site. In pounds, I can't remember, but what we did was we made a price for, so in dollars it was $99, and then it went to $129 for the next one per month. So it wasn't a big jump; it was just a small jump to the next one.
Like £99, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, just going up a little bit. So people, because what happens is you create, and this is the strategy, if you like, is you create your basic product, then you have a product that's a little bit more expensive, not too much more, and then you have a very expensive product. And the idea is that most people will go to the next product, but a few people will go up to the top end as well.
And the top end product would include private lessons, like once a month or something.
Exactly. The top end product is all about going hard and giving them as much as they want. Look, I even had an idea, which I never sort of went on, but it was something that I seriously wanted to do, and I probably would do if I was running another guitar school, and that is to have, see, in Australia we have what we call squad swimming, and it's one of the reasons we, Australia as a country, when it comes to Olympics, the reason we rank well in the Olympics is because of swimming. We get a lot of medals from the swimming, and the reason that is because of the culture in Australia. Squad swimming is quite normal. You join a squad and you go swim training every day, 5 days a week, and that's normal if you join squad swimming. Whereas I thought, imagine if we had guitar squad where they came every day, so 5 days a week, and did guitar training. you would produce some pretty awesome guitar players. And so that's what I was thinking would be my ultimate goal for G4 when I started, and that was to have a guitar squad for those students who were willing to turn up and do an hour and a half practice every day, because they really wanted to seriously get good at the guitar. So it's something to think about. I think there is definitely, when you see how it works with swimming, I think in the UK, I think bike riding is pretty big, isn't it? You guys win a lot of medals over there for bike riding. So I guess that there's a lot of serious things going on with bike riding. But you don't have to look at sports today. You know, kids who play football or soccer, they do it every day. You know, when I was a kid, you went to training twice a week and you played on the weekend. But these days, the kids are literally training every day if they want to be serious with their sports. So it's really the same with the guitar, and I think there's more of that going on where people are sort of moving into what it is they want to be serious at. And if you provide that, you will get the guitar students who are like that. They will come to you from other teachers, other places, because you're the one providing it. So I think it's something worth thinking about. Okay, cool. So scheduling. So in terms of scheduling, Ben, what I really work toward, and as I said, in your first year, when you're growing your business, or in your first couple of years where you're getting, if you want to get to that 100 mark, you really have to put most things on hold and be prepared to do those intros at any time. And I know that we like to stick to our schedules. I know we like to go to the gym at a certain time, and we want to have our evenings free after a certain time, or we want to keep the middle of the day free, whatever it is to keep our lifestyle going. But if you can put most of that on hold, and I'm not talking about your fitness and your health, find the time to do that. Go and do lots of flyers. You'll stay healthy enough, and I think you know, Ben, because you go to the gym. 20 minutes full-on workout is all you need. You go 20 minutes hard a day in a gym. Just don't stop. Bang, 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 bang for 20 minutes. You're done, and that'll keep you in good physical condition. And if you're doing the flyers as well for 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, do your marketing, and then book in your students wherever you can. And that's really the way to do it. Now, at the moment, you've got, what's your situation? You've got about 50 students, did you say?
Just under. I've got 46. Maybe it's because it's happening now. Like last week, I had 8 phone calls and 4 booking.
Wow.
Just bang, bang, bang. 2 of them, it was just what happened. They were keen. Great phone conversation. Got to the end of the week, and I said to both of them, I can do you this Friday at 5:30, but only for 2 weeks, and then we'll have to move somewhere else. And another call was the other way around. I can see you at Thursday at 3:30, but it will be in 2 or 3 weeks' time. They both said, great, fantastic, not a problem. Email out with the details. Both of them came back, and it might have just been unlucky, but both came back saying, we've had a chat, and I think we'd rather wait until you had a regular slot. And it was on me having spent the phone call saying, we want to keep the first 5 weeks, consistent practice, form the habit, and then me turning around and saying, but actually, we're going to be moving you around to fit you in.
Yeah. And look, it does become a bit of a balancing act, but what you want to do is really try and keep thinking about how you can do it. I must admit that when I was building the first school, I spent a lot of time looking at that timetable. I must have spent hours every day studying it and thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? And especially as it became busy, and I knew the phone was going to ring, and another student was going to want to book in any minute, and I'm looking at my timetable and thinking, I don't have any times. I've got to, So it became a real challenge to find times. But what happens, and you're probably already noticing this, is that people get a sense that this guy must be doing well, because we're struggling to find a time here. You ring a restaurant. As soon as I ring a restaurant and say, can we book a table for Thursday night? Sorry, sir, we're really busy on Thursday night. I can only fit you in at 9:30. Is that going to work for you? And I think, wow, it must be good. Well, honey, you want to wait till 9:30? Oh yeah, we can have some snacks before. All right, book us in. It must be good.
Yeah,
it's that it gives a good impression. So I think keep trying to find times for them, keep trying to book them in, and be as flexible as you can possibly be.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. That's really all.
I can't complain. I guess the two issues that I've got, one is I came from that, you know my history, working at music school Monday to Friday from 3:30 until 9:30 every single day. So one of the reasons that I got involved with Phil, and doing it myself was, first of all, financially, but the main reason was the fact that I was spending all this time doing it, and I like the idea of structuring things and paring things down to a point where you've got 3 or 4 crazy busy days, but then you've got a system set up where you're still working on the business, but you're not working in the business. You're not being a teacher for those other 3 or 4 days. And I feel I've got that. I take phone calls and bits and pieces, but I can actually relax on a weekend unless I've got a local fair on a Saturday. My Tuesday is my day off. It's not my day off, but that's my main day for working, doing business stuff where I can relax. I can sit at home in front of the computer. I can go and see family if needs be. I can go and do house stuff, but I'm not teaching Tuesdays. So I like that. To go back to because I know what will happen if I opened up Tuesday nights. Before I know it, I'd be working Tuesday nights. So I'll be back. So although he's still doing it for me, I'd be back to doing 5 nights a week from 3:30 till 9:30. You know what I mean? But I'm aware that at the place I used to work at, it was a silly term, and there's probably a better term for it, but busy makes busy. It does. So I'm sort of fighting with that a little bit, in like, well, just go for it, just open up Saturday afternoon, open up Tuesday night, but then I'm thinking, hang on, if I do that, I know what'll happen. I'll be busy, but I won't be happy.
It's absolutely true. And you do need to be mindful of that you're not just taking on students and filling, because if you're teaching all the time, it can become exhausting as well. You're having to put your game face on every day. You're not getting a break from it. And even if you've got one student, you've still got to think about that. You've got to prepare. You've got to get mentally ready, and then you've got to deliver. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Every day that you're teaching is a day that you've got to have your game face on. Mm-hmm. So the solution really is to keep pushing hard on the grouping, and maybe to take a few more risks. Put some students into groups that.
So, again, you know my history as a private teacher. I'm still probably, if I'm honest, overthinking. Oh, will he work with her? Will she work with him? Will those two get on? Are we almost saying that? Almost be prepared to lose those students? I'm not saying don't care about them, but almost in this instance, say your group time is 5:30 next week, otherwise we're done. Almost. Are you talking about being that hard line with it?
Yeah. See, what I did, and my approach was that I knew that I had to take those risks. I had to put students into groups. And because my situation was actually different, I was forced into it because I had at the time just recovered from quite severe tendonitis, and so I couldn't actually play physically the guitar for too long. I knew that if I was working too much, then it was going to become a problem, and that could stop me from teaching.
You couldn't do 10 or 15 private lessons one after the other because your hands wouldn't take it. I see. Right. I see.
And it's amazing what when you're forced into a situation, how you will do the things that need to be done. And it's like when you're broke, you'll do things when you're broke that you wouldn't do when things are good. In fact, most of us fall into comfort zones. We get to a certain earning and we're I don't have to work that hard anymore. It'll be fine. But once you drop below that, it's like a thermometer. Once you drop below that income, that's when you really get off your backside and start doing things. And it's the same in this situation. If you knew that you had to put if there was something hanging over you that said you could only teach 3 days and you need to have 100 students by the end of the year, otherwise you're gone. You're out of business. If someone put that to you, the gun to your head, so to speak, you would find a way. You would start making it happen, and you would start pushing those people into those groups. And it really is a part to success. You really have to push outside, and they talk about this in most things, through innovation. is that most innovation occurs on the fringe. Innovation doesn't occur in the comfort zone. It's
Wartime. Second World War was the big one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Was it Teflon, Velcro, and superglue or something like that we got from a horrible thing like the Second World War, and all of a sudden those things were invented on the back of conflict.
Yeah, so many things. And some horrible experiments went on as well, of course. But all sorts of things in regards to surgery and understanding anatomy. Nuclear. They really pushed the nuclear front through the Second World War. That's why they came up with the bomb at that point, because they just were pushing and pushing for it. So yeah, when things are tough and things are under pressure, then that's when you're on the fringe, that's where innovation really happens. And so, in a sense, I got forced into that through the group teaching, because I knew I was limited to the amount of teaching I could do, but also knew how much I needed to earn and to get to where I wanted to be again. So the idea was that 3 days group, and so if students said to me, I can't do group, really my attitude was, well, I don't have anything else to offer you. That's all I'm doing. I've been doing this too long. I'm too experienced. I'm not going to be teaching you privately for $30 a lesson. It's not going to happen. I know my value. I knew my value at the time. I knew $200 an hour. That's a minimum I'm willing to accept because of my experience and because of what I'm going to offer you. And you've got to kind of take that attitude. You've got to take the attitude that, and you also have to consider that a lot of my students, their parents, this is in Sydney, in Australia, this is one of the wealthiest suburbs in Australia. Most of these people earn $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour. Yeah. So to sort of question me on what I'm earning really comes down to, well, it depends on how much you value.
How did you value it?
Yeah, and so I value.
Yeah, you just play guitar for a living. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I don't get it so much, but I used to get it quite a bit. And people would say, "Oh, what do you do for a job then?" It's like it's hard for me to do that.
You play guitar. Okay, that must be hard, huh? Yeah. You need some money? You've got a hat? I can throw some coin in for you. Yeah. But it's a thing where when you like I said, when you're focused on these groups, what'll happen is you'll put them into the groups, and then you'll find ways to make it work. You'll be surprised. What you think before you group people is not really what's going to happen. It's like an experiment of two chemicals that you've never put together. You don't know what's going to happen until you actually put them together, and you will see students who you thought would get on really well clash, and then you'll see other students who you thought would clash and get on really well.
Yeah,
you can't predict it.
No.
So, and the other thing about it is that I thought of every group like a band. I've been in quite a few bands, as you guys probably have, and often with bands, sometimes they're like relationships, except there's 5 of you in it or 4 of you in it. And when they start out, sometimes you have differences of opinion, and there's a bit of politics going on, and people are sort of arguing about what style of music to play and what songs to play, and I don't want to play this song, and etc. But then you start to gel, you start to work it out, you start to find that middle ground, and things start to come together. And it's the same with your groups. You'll find that they'll start to come together, and then some of those groups will end up lifelong friends. You will actually create some amazing friendships through your classes, and I know that happened to me, and it's something. Yeah, you can really do a lot of things with groups, and I think learning in groups, because I know from my own experience, when I was a teenager, my teacher put me into a rock school program. He taught privately, but then he put us into this rock school program. I'm still friends with those guys to this very day.
Yeah,
and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me was what he did for me then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right, so I'll move on to Bob's question here about handicapping, and then I'll get to you, Ben, to see if you've got a question as well, Ben Arcadi. So from the handicapping, there is some, I should see if I can find some more materials on it, but there is definitely on the website, and I'm going to answer your question as well, Bob, but just so you know, on the website there's a whole section about handicapping. And we have covered it in quite a few of these Hangouts, but I know you haven't been in them. But if there's any, I'm not sure, I'll see if I can find it. I think there is one that specifically says handicapping in the title. Now, handicapping is basically about taking students who are all learning the same thing, but you're handicapping what they do for their level of skill. So for an example, scales. If you're playing, let's say you've got a varying range of students, and you can actually take a big range, right from a beginner up to an advanced player. It's quite possible to do. But let's just have a look at sort of a more realistic group scenario where you're going to handicap. You'll have a student who is, let's say, just starting to learn the C scale, the C major scale. They hardly know it. They know the first or second note, and that's about it. That's your very beginner student. Then you've got the next level student who knows the scale but only can play it very slowly. They know each note and they have trouble descending. They can ascend okay, but the descending is a bit of a problem for them. Then you've got the next student who can play the scale, no problem, smoothly up and down at a reasonable tempo. They don't have a problem with it. So let's just say they're kind of at that accomplished level where they're ready to get a tick for it. And then you've got your advanced player who knows the scale really well. They can play it, blink of an eye, no problem. So what do we do with those 4 students? How do we get them all to play the same scale? The first thing I do is I'll go to the beginner student and say, I want you to play the C, D, C, D. Just go back and forth on the C, D. That's all I want you to do while we go right through it. The second person, I'm going to set it at their tempo, whatever they can manage. So I'll ask them to play the scale at their tempo right through ascending. Now, if they're not ready to descend, that's okay. Just play the ascending and then stop and play ascend again. But I will try and give them a bit of a challenge. Each time I will get them to go up. So with that beginner student, I will try and add the E note to the scale as well. So they're playing 3 notes, just to sort of up the ante a little bit, but just a fraction. And then for the second student, I'll try to get them to play as much of the descending as they can and see how they go, just giving them a little bit more so that they're stretched but not overstretched. Then I'll go to the student who can play the scale, no problem. And what I'll ask them to do, there's a couple of options. One is I can ask them to play different kinds of note values. So I could get them to play triplets or sixteenths or quavers, whatever. I could get them, there's a whole range of obviously note values that we get them to play. I can also get them to play the scale in a different position. So starting up somewhere further up the neck and say, okay, I want you to play it here. And even if they don't know that scale there because they're just learning it, again, you get them to play just the first 2 notes, the C and the D, in a different position, showing them where it is and say, okay, that's getting you started. And for the advanced player, I could give them a sequence. I could get them to play, triplet patterns through it. So they're going first, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. Or I could get them to do 4 combinations of 4 or even 5 if I want to really get it. There's no limit to where I can take it. So it's all about doing the same thing, which is the C scale, and getting everyone to be challenged at their particular level, so they don't feel bored and they're not left out. The most important thing when you're doing group work is you don't want to leave people out. You don't want them sitting over just waiting for something to happen. You want to get them involved at whatever level they're at, and then you go through and you tweak each player and you say, okay, you're good on that. You can do a little bit more. Add this note or add that, and then once there's sort of that, you might lift the tempo a little bit, get everyone playing a little bit faster, and so forth. Does that make sense, Bob?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay,
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Excellent. And you could even get your advanced player to improvise. They could do things. They could even do, chords. They could go through, the harmonised scale and play across C. There's so many good things you can do to get really creative in this respect. So.
Okay. Thanks.
While I'm on that, Does anyone have anything they want to add to that? That's pretty well, because I know we've talked about it quite a few times. Is there anything you guys want to throw in that I missed there? No? All good? All right, so Ben Al-Qadi, what would you like to discuss? Oh, sorry, Ben, did you want to say something? Ben Messenger?
Yeah, just a quick one, David. The issue I have with that is, again, going back to the structure in the groups, is that the stuff that you mentioned, like playing in triplet patterns, and the issue I'd have is finding time to maybe teach that. I always feel when I give something new to someone, especially when it's to an individual but within a group, I feel like I'm throwing it at them and they look at me like, what the hell's this? Like I almost need a whole lesson on that thing for them to then be able to do it in the group lesson, if that makes sense.
Right, excellent. So this is where what we want to do is two things. One is that you want to give them the smallest possible piece you can of the puzzle. So not give them too much to do. So if it can't be explained in 30 seconds, it's probably too much. So that's number one. So where we're talking about this pattern of for the advanced player, if that's still they can't get their head around that, they're not that advanced to understand the pattern that you're asking them to do. Just get them to play the first 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just keep getting them to do that, to rotate that, and then go, all right, I want you now to go to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th note of the scale. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Just keep cycling that for me. So you're giving them little bits without explaining the whole concept, if that makes sense. So that's one thing. The other thing to do is to do videos where you go, okay, for you, what I want you to do is look at this video. I'm going to send you the link, knowing that they're coming in next week, knowing that that's where that student is at. You can send them a video and say, watch this video. I want you to learn this pattern, and then you're going to be doing it in class. Okay. So sometimes we think the class, we have so much leverage today. This wasn't happening when I was teaching group, right? YouTube wasn't around when I started group teaching. The YouTube is a great new tool, and if we want to keep up with the times, we've really got to get onto it. And the idea is that your group lessons can be leveraged enormously by having videos that you can then refer students to, knowing what you're going to be doing next week, and then sending out those videos. And this is part of this new setup I'm putting together, the management of your whole program, is that you'll be able to put students into the groups, and you'll be able to tag that group, and then you'll be able to send them an email. So you might have a group 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, say, and then you can just click on your 4 o'clock Wednesday group, and they all get the same email if you want to send them a group email. So things like that, and it might be where you can send them, again, the same email and say, guys, there are 3 videos here for you, the beginners, just watch this video. For the intermediates, this one, and the advanced, watch this. So you'll have all these things, and you start setting these up as systems. And the idea is we want to get as much of our teaching into the 21st century. We want to really have our teaching being right out on the edge, so people are coming to our classes and going, man, this is mad. I'm getting these videos, I'm getting this preparation, I'm turning up to class, and they're so efficient because everything is being planned ahead of time. And to do that, we need to automate it. We can't be you can't be working for hours and hours and hours of doing it. We need to get the systems in place to be able to do it, and that's what we're working towards. We need some AI to come in and help us with this, but in the meantime, we'll have to do it ourselves. So yeah, make up some videos. Do some videos on sequences, or even if there are some videos out there, if any of you guys do videos, again, let's share it around. I don't know if you just saw what Shane did, but he did an amazing thing with the reading. He's put a whole reading section together, and he's generously given it to us to use. So all you guys can use it. It'll become incorporated now into the reading materials. And I've also been speaking to him about doing something more with the reading, because that's something that he's really into and he really enjoys. And that's to create something that he can sell. Because I said, you want to do something you can sell as well, create an extra product. And the thing that I have found with the reading, and maybe you guys have had a different experience, but the thing that I really has hit home for me, and I think that we need, is the main problem for reading, is that it advances too quickly. So when we get students on, for example, learning E, F, and G, B, C, D, they learn 3 notes, and then they learn another 3 notes. They do a couple of exercises for each. That's it, and then they're straight into Song of Joy. And that's a big jump for a beginner student. And then what they're doing is within a couple, they learn 3 pieces there, and then bang, they're into learning two more notes. And that, when we're talking about adding to the complexity, each time that you add a note, it makes it more complex for the student and more difficult, and which causes them to lose confidence and lose interest in the reading. And the point that I made to Shane is that what doesn't exist for beginner students is a text that really focuses on learning just those first 6 notes and giving a lot more exercises, giving students a lot more to do, like 100 exercises, just using those 6 notes. It could be using different kinds of note values. It could be incorporating more rests, doing just different scenarios around those notes. And that will really help students to build confidence, because they'll be working through lots of different pieces using the same notes, because even I've noticed this, especially with Mia, teaching Mia from a young age, then the complexity further on in the book became quite difficult for her, and I found that I was having to go back a lot and revise, and I think you guys might find that too, where you sort of get to a point and then you realize that they're getting really weak in certain points and you've got to go back and revise all the time. And so that's something that I think if we can have more material, more exercises, that would be great. Now I'm just let me have a look here. Ben said, David, I'm just here for listening. I'm pretty ill. Okay, no worries, Ben, no problem. And Bob, you've mentioned Paul Harris has some really good exercises. Improve your sight reading series for piano. He does exactly that, incremental building like you mentioned. Okay, fantastic. It's really what's needed for guitar students. When you think about the top-selling guitar books for students over the years, in my lifetime anyway, have been Mel Bay, Modern Method, and you know, PGM has obviously been a big seller, Hal Leonard, and they're all the same. They all progress too quickly. They don't give enough. And the reason, I believe, is it comes from that era of creating a text that, you know, cost money to print. The printing costs of a book. So to print a thick book would have cost a lot more money and would have made it less appealing. So if you make a book that's twice as thick, it's going to cost twice as much to print, and therefore people sell it twice as much. So guitar teachers go, no, I don't want a $40 book. I'll have a $20 book for my beginner student. Thanks very much. So they'd look at the book and go, wow, this is a book that's, you know, 100 pages and it doesn't get past the first 6 or 7 notes. But that's what's needed. You need that more incremental book to really help students to move more smoothly through it, rather than being launched into new exercises after 1 or 2 exercises on a new concept. So. Okay, so I think that covers it. So we've still got a little bit more time here. Does anyone have a second question? Yep, Ben?
Yeah, just a quick one, David. Bob brought up before, and he was saying about finding things on the website. I noticed we're now getting sometimes 3 or 4 of these sessions recorded on the G4 member site and YouTube. Is there any way you could maybe in the titles put, you know, for today we could put, you know, G4 Platinum Hangout, Monday 14th of September, tiered pricing, scheduling, and handicapping, for example. So when you're flicking through YouTube, rather than watching the whole thing and thinking, oh, I've seen most of that, we can look through quickly and say, yeah, that's the one I want to look at. That, because with them being a good hour, as we know, we talk about takeaways, there probably isn't. There's an hour's worth of stuff for us guys here now, but for somebody who's just looking through the video for some ideas, there probably isn't an hour's worth of content here, so it's not necessarily worth them sitting through the whole hangout.
Absolutely, totally. Yeah, there's like, you know, I think this is 59, so we're you know, going up to 60 videos, most of which are about an hour long. So there's a lot of content there to get through.
Great for the guys that are there involved, but as a resource that may be a little bit unwieldy. I've looked through a few and just thought, that's really interesting stuff, but like you said, there's another 30, 40, 50. I haven't got 30, 40, 50 hours, but I'm sure there's stuff in there that's really useful.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something there I want to do. And it's something that I think about delegating to Sizer to do. And part of why
your task, isn't it? But and it's going to be time consuming. I know what you mean.
It's a task, but it needs to be done. It absolutely needs to be done, because that's why we're recording this, is so people can go back and find information on what they need. So what I'm definitely going to be delegating some time to doing it. And the idea of introducing these with, you know, asking the questions at the beginning was, so I can just watch the first, 5 or 10 minutes and know what's on the video, and then I can put those points down. I have actually been writing them down. I've just got to go back and match up what I've got with the videos. And just so you guys know, you're probably aware of this anyway, you know you can speed up the YouTube videos, watch them at faster tempo speed. Yeah, okay, cool. So yeah, and a more ambitious project will be eventually to create links to every video from the website, so we actually have a sorted list of all the different topics, and then have a link to the video, go and watch the video at the certain points that they start, so to actually go through and bookmark.
You can already put, do they call them annotations on the video? That'll say skip to 1 minute 23 if you want to learn about scheduling, skip to 12 minutes 34 if you want to learn about handicapping. That'd be brilliant, to take those links and put them on the members site as well, it'd be fantastic. If you want to hear about handicapping, watch 7.5 minutes of this video.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, Google, that's why Google is so successful, because really what today is about is not about how much information you've got, it's about finding stuff. It's your findability of the information that you have, and that's, yeah, and it's very important. The one of the things that I learned from Jay was to save all your content, and that is, you know, all the guitar lessons that you're doing, or anything that you do, you should try and save it and record it, because you don't understand. So Jay's got so much content from, you know, the years that he's been doing stuff, that's he can sell his kind of, you know, Jay in a box, and he'll charge you, you know, a couple $1,000s for it, and that's him still getting value out of workshops and materials that he's done in the past. And so the same applies to you, and that's part of, you know, the whole G4 Guitar Method thing, was creating something that saved itself. It wasn't, you know, I think back before the G4 Method, how many lessons I gave where I just didn't you know, record anything. I'm talking thousands of hours of teaching where it was totally, you know, nothing was kept. And that's why I'm recording these sessions, because, you know, we're now up to sort of 60 hours here. And before the video, we've got the audio as well, so we've got another 100 hours there. So there's, you know, it's getting 160 hours, and it'll grow and grow and grow, and who knows how many hours. But then the trick, of course, is finding stuff. It's one thing to have all this information, but it's another thing to be able to find it. And that's really what you're saying is really important, and I need to start doing that now so that we can find that. So yeah, thank you. Okay, cool. So I guess we'll wrap up there. Sorry, I'll just read what Ben's put here. This sounds good. I've been thinking about it for a while. PGM, yep, okay, PGM 2. A bit unbalanced. I recently bought the Guitarist Way books. Yep, melody. It's also some single note accompaniments, effectively giving a variety of different bass lines. Not only a good example of more exercises with just a few notes, also highly appropriate for group lessons and handicapping. Excellent, excellent. And that's something that Shane, you might have noticed, is incorporated into his reading material, some duets, and I think that's what we want more of. We want more duets, more, you know, not just duets, it can be whole arrangements for 5 guitar players even. It'll be really, really fun. Again, think of that book that I'm going to encourage Shane to put together, and it might be something, because I want him, and you guys can sell it as well, where you do a 50% split on it, and the idea is to sell that book onto your students as extra reading material, and that way Shane gets paid for his work, you guys can make a bit more money, and it's a very valuable resource that we can have pieces in there, just starting on those first 6 notes, and that's what I've asked him to do, is come up with a book just using 6 notes, and let's come up with lots of ideas in there, and if you can come up with 5-part arrangements using 6 notes, it'd be a lot of fun, and students, I think, would then really enjoy the reading. So Ben's asking, where is the material? I haven't seen it. I've only seen the 3 new exercises. Okay, it's just so you guys know, it's in the extras folder. So if you go to the G4 Guitar Method download folder, and then you go into the extras folder, you will, actually, I think, no, we might have moved it now, but it was in with his base materials. I've added it now just in the G4 Method materials. So you will find it in there. It's just an add-on. So you can download it straight from there. We're all good. We're done. Thanks, guys, and be back on Wednesday night if anyone wants to join that. We're done. Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Dave. See you later, guys.
Thanks, guys.